Welcome to the Mountain Dude Podcast, brought to you by Initial Ascent, where we share stories of grit, determination, and the relentless pursuit of growth. This is a space where backcountry hunting meets the deeper lessons of life. Success born from struggle, and the art of carrying heavy loads more comfortably, both physically and metaphorically, through faith and perseverance. Join us as we explore the paths that shape us, celebrate victories big and small, and fuel our journey with hope and tenacity. This is the Mountain Dude Podcast, where we climb higher together.
Newsboys, okay. Yeah. Well, should we kick this thing off?
Yeah, is this thing working?
Yep.
We're recording?
Yeah,
We're recording?
I think we're hot.
Hey, family, friends.
Mountain Dude Podcast.
Is this this is something that can be in here?
Yeah.
Okay, make sure that's enough. So
Yeah.
conflict of interest.
Oh, no.
None.
Drinking.
I'm just
This
gonna...
thing's actually really good, by the way.
It'll get you wired.
Are they good?
Like shaky wired.
Yeah. I always grabbed my water earlier because I had coffee before we did the first podcast. I was like, whoa, trying to get to it. No bucks in the room, easy.
Yeah. You're going to feel that way probably with an energy drink. I haven't had an energy drink in a long time.
Yeah. It's just the empty stomach combo.
Oh, yeah. That's
gets
never
you.
good.
Ooh, not good.
And you throw some like nicotine on top of it.
Oh,
like
there
a
you
Zen
go.
pouch or something.
Yeah, then you're...
You're in trouble.
That's the mechanic diet right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. That is literally the blue-collar diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably know all about that.
I think that's
too.
the military
Breakfast,
diet too,
like,
isn't it?
Yeah. You go into a gas station, you buy an energy drink, some Zins, and
Yeah.
a breakfast sandwich from the...
The one that's been there
Lunchable.
last night.
One Lunchable.
Yep. Oh,
And that's your breakfast, lunch, and dinner
It
combined.
gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I filmed for the guy that created Lunchables once.
Oh, really?
At the ranch, and
Yeah.
then I think he'd also been the CEO of Gillette. And
Wow, like that.
but he
Okay.
told me he created Lunchables. His name is Jim Kiltz. We might have to look that up.
No kidding.
He said he created Lunchables. So there we have it.
All right. Well, Mountain Dude
Thanks for
Podcast. Welcome back, Clint Easley.
Man, I feel like a veteran on this podcast at this
time.
point.
Yeah.
You're the only repeat offender.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right,
That's a
we're
good
setting
thing.
a first record.
Yeah. I
Okay.
love it.
Yeah, yeah.
We got
Dennis?
Chase in the house this time too.
Yeah, exactly. New one. Dennis Stokes, co-owner here with us as well. Dennis.
Yep.
And then
Chase Pearl?
Yep. I'm in front of the camera this time.
Not behind it.
Not behind it.
Usually,
Right.
he'll still work his magic behind the scenes later, so he'll fix
Yeah.
everything that we screw up
Yeah.
still. But
As soon as I say something dumb, I'll just crop myself out and just remove myself from the podcast. That's why I'm on the edge.
just put Cody's face in there. If you say
Is
something
Chase
you don't
Pearl?
like.
Is that your like country name that you created the signature name, or is that your actual?
No, that's
real
my
name?
stage name.
That is a
cool?
stage
Yeah.
name. Yeah, I was like, that is a great podcast.
My real name is
name.
Jaquarius Small.
These two are going to be perfect.
Oh, wonderful!
I'm glad we did this.
Jacarius.
Before we
LaCroix,
get,
Lamore.
Before
What
we
those
get too
guys said.
far into this, let's start this with a prayer.
Yes, sir.
Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity to gather around this table again, Lord. We're so blessed by your presence, Lord. We just ask you be with us in our fellowship, Lord, and you may just guide our speech. And if there may be anything you can use, Lord, that we may just do so, and that you may be glorified from it. Lord, we love you, and we give you all the praise. We say these things humbly in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I pray for my hair to come back.
Dennis, too.
A little, not for you're fine. You're like you've plateaued
He put a
to
hat
a
on
perfect.
because of what you told him on the last one.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a glare. I could tell that was coming off. I could see it off that TV over there. And I'm like, man, lights are bright in here. That's my hair.
I had to turn the ISO down.
I
So.
bet you
What's
did.
that?
Speaking
ISO?
of ISO, that's pretty much why we're here. We got a little story on Clint Easley.
I don't even know
Hunter.
what that means. So maybe you can throw that definition.
You know what? I would have to look up because it's been so long what ISO acronym stands for.
I couldn't.
I can tell you what it does
Yeah.
in the camera.
Yeah.
Do you want that just right out of the gates? Just deep diving into
that's
ISO
what we're
with
gonna
cameras?
do today. I do. That's what today's show is going to be about. I want to get into the weeds of Revol Entertainment, and I want to get into the weeds of you as a filmmaker. Because here's something that people have already probably done this. They've watched the film that you put out with Vortex Nation, the full Sin 40.
So good.
Hopefully at this point. It was awesome. But I really want to get into the weeds because I probably have never told you this because we're usually making fun of each other when we're hanging out, but I legitimately think that you are one of the best in the industry at telling a story and creating a film. I gotcha. But truly, I genuinely feel that way. And
Appreciate
I want to
that.
get into the weeds of what you do that is so different because I think it's unique and it's really cool. And so I want to kind of peel back the curtain and show that.
Thanks, man. That's a very kind of you. I think it's a lot of.
I'll take $20 at the end for this.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of time in the seat, right? You get good at hunting. You get good at running a business. The time in the seat is the one thing that I feel like gives everyone the advantage. What is it? What's the saying? 10,000 hours to kind of perfect your craft.
Right.
We're probably, most of us, what we're doing, we're probably past the 10,000 hour mark. And in filming, production, storytelling, there is no cap on how far you can take that stuff.
Right.
I feel like certain businesses, you're like, I've got this business buttoned up. I can sell it now and go start something new.
Right.
You're still going to learn the business, grow with the business. But the camera world, like, you can indefinitely your entire life. I mean, George Lucas and Star Wars and the things those guys put out there, they're still breaking the barrier of what new tech is. And then the perk of technology in general, it's such an evolution. You buy a new camera and it's already outdated the day you walk away with it.
That's wild, too. That's crazy.
So you wanted to know about ISO. You want me to
that's it.
just go back to that real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
So
totally.
ISO, if you're thinking from photography, from exposure standpoints, it's going to get a little convoluted here, but when we have a camera in front of us, your ISO can allow you to increase your exposure or decrease your exposure as an offsetting to your aperture. Do you guys know what aperture is? Dennis, do you know what aperture is?
That's why Chase is here.
Nope,
Chase
you
has
need
got
to
some
dumb it
knowledge.
down for me, and you lost me at exposure.
Yeah. Well, okay, so aperture, an easy way. We've got some beautiful images here around us. So let's say the landscape shot. If you're shooting at a 2.8 aperture, the lower that number is, the more beautiful and bokeh and blurry the backdrop can be. You create this compression barrier. Okay. And then if you go to a higher aperture, let's say we're going up to like f8, f11, you're starting to sharpen everything in the image. So even the mountains faded way back there, that sunset, then you'd have detail in that also. Okay. So when people shoot landscape shots, they love to shoot, typically they're going to shoot with a higher aperture number because then you gather all that beautiful
all the detail.
Landscape. And then you could do composite style where you take multiple pictures, layer them together too if you really wanted to like sharpen right in on those.
Yeah.
So aperture, when you mess with that, that's going to mess with your exposure. So there's some ISO features in there that now you have to change the exposure to accommodate how much light you're letting into your camera. It gets kind of nerdy, and honestly,
Exposure has to do with light.
Exposure, photography, I think the definition is painting with light, right? So there's like, light is everything in how you use a camera, and I break it down as simple as I can. Like, think of the Ghostbuster machine, right? The more light you let in, the bigger the ghost you're going to slurp into that thing, and you're going to either
love that.
You're going to either overexpose because you let too much light in, or you bring a little smaller ghost in. You're going to capture the shot just right. But everyone starts on auto. You get a new camera, you're like, let's figure out what auto does. Cool. Takes a beautiful photo, right? Your iPhone, you can jump right on, hit the photo mode, and you take a great photo. It's when you start to branch into the manual settings, that's where you start to have to really memorize what you're doing because you are manipulating all of those settings, your aperture, your ISO.
So that's the rabbit hole.
You can get deep down there.
Okay.
Super deep.
Yeah, Chase has talked about that. So Chase is our marketing director here at Initial Ascent and a content creator, and he wears a whole bunch of hats, and he's tried to explain some of this stuff to us before. And yeah, it's kind of foreign, but man, just the product that
speaks for
from
itself,
it is just amazing. You're like, how did you do that? So continue.
That's cool.
Well, and what would you say was one of your first toughest challenges getting into playing with cameras?
Probably shutter speed.
Shutter speed?
Yeah, shutter speed matching what I'm shooting. Kind of the balance of all of them, but I'd probably dumb it down to say shutter speed is the biggest one. If somebody's hiking, I mean, you're shooting on auto, and I'm like, I'm good enough for manual now.
Then you get up with blurry pictures.
I'm focused on light, and like it's well exposed, but it's not bounced across the board. Next thing I know, I have a blurry photo that I didn't know until the end because my shutter speed was off.
Yeah.
But it was well lit.
And
But
that's
it's
where
a useless
ISO
photo.
also comes into play. You've got ISO, aperture, and your shutter speed. Shutter speed is that frame rate. So let's say we're 1/1000, one over 1,000th of a second. It's like super quick, just letting a little light in. If it's a bright day, you want that shutter speed to be up higher. Or if you're trying to stop action, something moving fast, you want a higher shutter speed. If you're trying to get like streaking lights at night, you can bring that shutter speed way down to like 1/60th. And then you start getting some blurred artistic shots. Yeah. And when you learn how to manipulate those three, your aperture, your ISO, and your shutter speed, that's where somebody with a creative eye and a creative idea can really break the barrier on what a good photo or video shot can be.
So
You can see some...
The audience needs to get the notebooks out for this one. This one's one that we need some notebooks out, take some notes. If you're creating any type of content, whether that's for yourself or as a company, these are some golden nuggets here.
Yeah. And you do not only photography, but you do videography as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you take it with Revol. You take that to a whole new level, and you're telling a story along with it. So maybe if you could just take us back to where it began and how you got interested in it. I know we covered it in the other podcast just a little bit, kind of scratched the surface, but maybe take us back to where you started, and let's kind of geek out a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll mix it up. So if you guys haven't heard the previous podcast, you can take some information from that too. First and foremost, I am self-taught on YouTube, so I'm just going to put that out there. My terminologies might not be like if you went to school for it. I don't have the doctoral credit to give you exact precision on what some of those sayings might be, but I've consumed enough information because YouTube is such an excellent platform to absorb that. And if you're hungry enough for it, you can learn anything you want. So going back to how we got into photography, I'd mentioned that my father got out of the Air Force. He worked on the pipeline Alaska, picked up a camera. That was probably a very heavy influence on me ever picking up a camera myself. I do remember specifically where there was a pretty heavy pivot to me messing with photography on another level was my wedding gift. My parents had given us a cool digital camera, like the one that has a little optical zoom built in. A lot of hunters will take that.
Little point and shoot.
Little point and shoot, and you just press a little zoom in, zoom out, right?
Yep.
And I just played around with that. I was like, ooh, I'm going to go reflection of the glass shot with a garden gnome. I was just floating in our little backyard, picking random things. I was like, this is fun. And when I got married, my wife and I got married in the country of Colombia. She's Colombian. Oh, okay. So we got married in San Martin, which is a small town that her mother was born in. So it was a kind of unique way to get all the family together in an easy spot. But a good buddy of mine, he's like, if you're going to go get married in Colombia, why don't you borrow my Canon, don't know the model, and my 70-200 lens, because we were planning to go for part of our honeymoon to the Amazons and just the culture down there, right? I would love to document it. So I took a fancy camera. I'm sitting on the airplane, start fidgeting with buttons, watched some YouTube videos before I left. Got enough to really feel comfortable with the auto setting, right? And then going through Colombia, I think we were there for 10-ish days. So like anything, you throw yourself into it enough, start taking pictures and start playing around with things. That's probably one of the very significant things that really struck my interest to get into photography. And doing architecture, event production, filming hunting stuff, and photographing hunting stuff, with the process of going through that, I think I had gotten hired to shoot some weddings once I was getting decent at the photos. Okay. And it starts out, it's like a buddy's, hey, can you shoot my birthday party? I'm trying to learn camera stuff. I'm all hooked on this. Sure, I'll give it a go. And then, hey, can you shoot what other event? And then my wife's like, I think you need to start charging for this. You're spending a lot of time behind the computer fixing up these photos and
a lot less time with me.
Yeah. And she's like, there's value in that if you get paid for it. I'm all about it. Right. But when I leave on a Saturday night, which could have been our date night to go photograph a buddy's birthday party or go shoot somebody's wedding, like, Okay. So then you got to figure out what's your pricing structure. How do you even know what you're worth? That's a hard thing to like tell somebody. I'm worth $100 an hour. I'm worth this much. So I did a lot of stuff for free. Excuse me. I did a lot of stuff for free just to gain the knowledge. I wanted to get good at it before I tried to offer a product, so to speak. And once I did start to sell it, weddings and event production, because I worked in event production in Hollywood for quite a while, I think that was an easy foot in the door. And when you shoot a wedding, weddings to me are the best parallel to hunting, because you have to get the wedding kiss, you only get one take at it. You get a kill shot, you get one take at it. You're dealing with people and personalities, and there's an interaction element with your client on the mountain, dealing with stress and emotion. Like it's an emotional day on both aspects.
Right.
And then you still have to tell a story throughout the day and capture little intricate moments and get the detail shots. But the level of pressure that you have, I think, on those 2 days, even though they're very different, they're very similar. So I would give credit a lot to picking up the camera, taking it on my honeymoon after I got married, and then falling into shooting quite a bit of weddings. That was a great training ground for me to get into doing the hunting stuff and documenting hunting confidently. And then when I pivoted into videography, do you want me to elaborate on kind of how I got into the videography, or jump to the other podcasts?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Just give us a quick
synopsis on it.
Chase will put a link to the bio to the original episode as well. So if you want to go back and get the full story, we can, but give us a little brief synopsis on it.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about that, because that's where I want to kind of pivot next, is what got you into the outdoor industry and filming for it.
Yep.
But I think it's important to realize how you would come up.
How in the world I ended up with a video camera in my hands.
Exactly.
And my goal today, just so you guys know, the last podcast we did with Clint, now I want to be an early season velvet mule deer hunter. And my goal today is to not want to be a videographer or photographer after we get done with this, because I'm the kind that I geek out over stuff, and it's full send. I mean, it's all in. So that's my goal.
Yeah, that's been my biggest problem. It's like you start something, you want to be good at it.
Right.
I don't like to half effort anything.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's the hardest part with like trying to juggle having an architecture career and then dabbling with cameras and jumping into a little bit of the backstory of the video. If you guys don't hear the other podcast, I went on a hike with my camera in short. I was taking some headshots for a buddy of mine, or planning to, and on our hike there we ran into a gentleman and his wife that were putting in a prayer box. And that prayer box was going to be the foundation for this cool leave a prayer, take a prayer, and a cool community thing, but somebody kept taking that away. So they decided they were going to put in this concrete foundation, and I just happened to be on the mountain at the right place, right time, and bumped into this guy. Gave him my email after offering to take some pictures for them. And then after about a week went by, he asked for the photos. So I sent him the pictures, and then I found this big mule deer on his website in his email signature. And I grew up hunting. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's a 200-inch velvet mule deer, the bow hunter. Like, what is this all about? So I reached out to the gentleman after the photos and picked his brain, like, can we go to lunch? Can we figure out kind of what's happening? What's going on here? Can I be your friend?
Hey, can we be best friends now?
Yeah. And I go into more detail in the other podcasts on this, but in short, he offered me an opportunity to put in some sweat equity to work with him. And I ended up going through him to meet a guy that connected me with a video camera, and went down the pipeline of taking a 2-day crash course for that. Came back with this video camera and knocked on Freddie's door and weaseled my way up the ladder to work at a hunting ranch in Colorado for about 10 seasons, I think it was. And in those 10 seasons, the style of film... In those 10 seasons, the style of filming is very catch it as it happens and then find a way to puzzle it together to make an episode.
Right.
So I learned in a very basic format of first I'm learning all these settings, like video settings, what's 24 frames per second versus 30 frames per second, something like that. If you watch like reality TV or you're watching live sports, most of the time they're going to shoot that in 30 frames per second. It's a different style shutter speed. It has a little bit of a different look. You watch movies or you watch a lot of films, a lot of times we'll shoot more of a 24 frames per second. It has a little bit more of a cinematic, I don't know, creamier look to it. If you see them side by side, you'll know what I'm talking about.
It's a natural motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I watch The Office, okay, that show.
Yeah. That one's probably shot, I bet that one's shot in 30 frames per second.
That's what it looked like it was maybe
more real time kind of feels, right? It might be
different. It's like some dude carrying around,
That's
a
the
camera
vibe.
versus the whole cinematic.
Yeah.
Do you remember the old soap opera Days of Our Lives? It would come on and it had
Grew up on it, man.
It had
My
a
wife
very
still
different
watches
look
it.
to it.
Yeah.
That was shot
Talk about
either in
Bo
30 or
and
60.
Hope and Patch.
It was a very sharp, like very
That's one of the
fluid
characters.
motion.
It
Whereas
is.
a 24 is typically what we shoot in on things, and it's a more natural. It's like what your human eye sees, right?
Yeah, I would say that. Yep. So we shot all this stuff, catch as it happens. We were at 30 frames per second. Part of that's just didn't know any different. This is what the older camera guys that I was learning from had told me to use. I didn't really know what the 24 frames per second was till I started getting with some other creative camera guys. Like, oh man, you've been doing it wrong the whole time. But we're also on a outdoor TV show, so some of those parameters you have to stay within their guidelines. They want it 30 frames per second. They want 12 episodes. It needs to be 22 and a half minutes long. There's a lot of barriers and boundaries you got to stay within. You get X amount of commercial time. You learn a lot throughout the process.
Now,
So-
is a lot of this stuff scripted or just kind of as it rolls at this point?
All as it rolls. And then what we would typically do is follow it up with an interview.
Okay.
And the interview would just help us fill in all the gaps.
Okay.
And I think we would talk more in real time. So he's like, I was sneaking up on this deer instead of when I was sneaking up on this deer. It's all trying to play it like the person's talking you through that then and their moment. So it's a safe play. It's an easy way to back up something that happens, because if you're verbally talking and I'm watching it, okay, I can connect the dots and understand the dialogue. The challenge is when you're at a high-level hunting ranch, sometimes the animals are a little too convenient, and then you have to try to, create more of a stalk than what actually took place, because it was like, oh, there's a deer 100 yards off the UTV road. Let's walk behind 5 pine trees, 1 bush, and shoot it. But nobody wants to sit on the couch and watch you just walk off and shoot it. They're like, you got to add some intensity, up the music. So people will call it reenactments. People will call it reversals. People call it fake hunting. It all depends on your mindset and how you choose to judge it. Some guys think rifle hunting is lame if they're a bow hunter. Bow hunters, vice versa. It's a matter of opinion.
Right.
I always try to think of from the story element. If you're somebody sitting on the couch, how can I give you entertainment value while offering as much authenticity as possible? And part of shooting that was a great way to learn. I wasn't passionate about shooting that style, but I got to build some good relationships. I got to understand the buttons and mechanics of camera work. And so I just went with it to an extended amount of time. And that's when I was ready to, in 2020, branch out to start my own media company, because then I have a little bit more controllability on camera settings. What's the intent of why we're shooting it? And a lot of that, though it was fun, it was heavy trophy hunting.
Okay.
Guys are paying to come shoot a beautiful big animal. They've been saving for it. They've worked hard for it, and they just want to document it as a cool memory. I love being able to preserve that opportunity for them to watch it later, share with their grandkids. Like there's value there.
Yeah, for sure.
But we weren't deep diving into who is Chris Young, right? Like we weren't dissecting that in-depth story to really pull out the meat and potatoes. The guy's on a hunt, awesome. But what makes it relatable is when you can do character development and really let the audience get to know you and share with them some like certain things. Some people maybe just don't want to wake up and hit the alarm in their pajamas on camera. I don't want people to see me with my messy hair. But those are the little things that tie in little snippets of relatability, because we all get up, hit the alarm clock in the morning. Yeah. So you slowly start piecing these parts of the puzzle together. And when I got to go and do some contract work with Huntmasters, we start cross shooting. It was 2 cameras all the time. I'd been a skeleton crew guy. I shot a lot by myself, and I had no idea the up in production value when we get 2 shooters. Because now one guy can film Dennis talking, and over your shoulder, another guy can film Chase talking, and I don't have to have you re-say everything and hope your words match tastefully to be able to show the audience that we have a conversation here, or just one blurred guy and one guy talking. Wow. So the dynamic of conversation and storytelling with 2 camera guys just completely like blew my mind once I got to learn how that works. And that's probably where the heavy storytelling started to pivot for me, and learning how to field produce things like that.
Right. And that all of this is kind of what sparks what is now Revol Entertainment.
Revol Entertainment, yeah. And we started Revol Entertainment in 2020. We hit COVID, primetime COVID, so there was definitely some stress on my plate at the time of like thinking I'm about to go gung-ho and do this big, cool new business venture, and then everything is frozen up, except I'll still have some freelance hunts where I'll just go film some of the hunters, right? Yeah. There's always that like job security to have some of that. But I photographed people on their front porches for COVID, and they would Venmo some money, take some cool family portraits. I was like, it's trending. People seem to like this. So I just went through town, and I think Jules, my wife, would coordinate on Facebook with families that wanted to do it. Yeah. And then somebody post a family picture, and I'm like, I want to do that, because they're bored out of their minds. It's like, yeah, go get dressed up, put costumes on, do something kind of fun. So by the skin of our teeth, we made it through 2020 with just enough hunts to keep the bills paid and just enough random porch photos, some construction work I squeezed in there with some buddies. And then it was just like all of a sudden things just started happening. Companies and businesses started to finally like come out of their hermit shell, and they're ready to start marketing again. They're like, we got to get out there. And my buddy Jack, who I met actually working at the ranch and filmed some of his family hunts, he had a big company called Innovative Casting Technologies out of Indiana. He's like, I can't have our buyers and customers physically come to our facility now because of COVID. Would you be willing to come over and film an entire operations video of who we are, what we do, how we do it? I kind of refer to those as like an anthem video. It's the core video for your business, right? Right. So he gives us an opportunity to go and shoot that, who we are, what we do, how we do it, anthem style video. And then that just started to ripple into a lot of other avenues for us. And when you're doing videos, they compound. It's like you shoot a wedding, 2 people at that wedding are probably going to want their wedding shot also, or their cousin or somebody. You usually get a referral. So then when you shoot one video, okay, that's in my toolbox. I shot some cool like industrial welding pieces for that guy. I've got some hunting stuff. What do I need now? So you start to try to fill in little gaps of portfolio samples. Have we ever shot race car stuff? Well, I want to shoot car stuff. Let's find somebody that's got a cool car. Go shoot a little mock sample of that. And then trying to take what you have from a portfolio of, now you're shooting some tactical stuff, you're shooting some car stuff, you're shooting hunting stuff. Naturally, we created this little lane and niche for Revol where it started to turn into like outdoor adventure content. Okay. People started to refer to us for, if it's something masculine, rugged, and outdoorsy, a lot of people would come our way. Mm-hmm. You get the guys that are doing cool welding, guy hiking up the mountain, dude throwing a fly fishing cast out there. We just kind of, I think the niche just kind of fell in that way based off the guys that would do an industrial shoot, but he's a hunter. So then he refers us to a buddy that hunts, and it just piggybacked off each other. Okay.
And what kind of sparked you to kind of go towards the storytelling, filmmaking with Revol?
The storytelling part. So part of when I was doing the TV show stuff, you're telling a little bit of the story, but you're not getting into the heartstrings of the emotional part of it. And when I did Huntmasters and I got a good taste for that, and then pivoted to start Revol independently, I really wanted us to be able to control the narrative to deep dive with people and find out, like, dig into what are you passionate about? Why did you start this company? And when you can control the narrative a little bit more, we can talk about those things. It's less about what the network needs to just create entertainment value.
Right.
We're trying to actually find out, like, what is the rich history going on in here?
Makes sense.
So, for instance, we'll be having a film on your elk hunt, which I'm sure you guys will talk about in a separate podcast, but getting to dive into legacy, right? That was a big element of our storytell for you, and being able to deep dive into what's that like, the tradition of hunting. And so we're always looking for fun topics and ways that we can try to tell the same story, but with a little bit more interest in mind of how can it relate to the people that are watching it.
Okay. So that's kind of something you guys are trying to do.
It's very, that's fulfilling for me to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And to seek the stories more than just getting contracted to go film something to film something.
Right.
If we can seek a story, that's like, I would hope any media company's goal that wants to expand into documentaries and feature films and getting into the long format stuff.
Right.
You got to be able to learn to tell good stories. Okay. And we're not world class at it by any means. There's plenty of room to grow, but we're pushing hard to just keep on getting better and better.
In your words, what describes a Revol film? What makes a Revol film different than
That's
somebody
a great question. I would say what would define a Revol film is the amount of passion that you probably can see through the lens. We love what we do. Yeah. There's not one person on our team that is not 110% in, whether it's doing some graphic stuff, color grading, editing, filming. Like, we put a lot of effort, time, and energy into really trying to deliver something with quality based off of the budgets we have for the camera equipment we have. Mm-hmm. You give us some movie caliber Aries and fancy
That's a
reds
scenario, right? You're filming.
Yeah. So we do with what we have. And I tell people all the time, focus way more on what you can tell with what you have than trying to say, this guy's got a better camera than me, that's why his footage is better. Cinematically, yeah, you got an advantage to probably do some things with really nice lenses. But if you can tell a good story, how many times have you watched a dumpy YouTube video because you're trying to gather information or hear a story?
Yeah.
The quality tends to be secondary. But as a brand, we want to find a lane for ourselves where we're a caliber above than just your standard hunting show. I've been in the mix of so many regular hunting shows that I'm trying to help the outdoor industry evolve into, like, let's bring some higher quality visuals into this, because it's been old school for so long, and there's still a lane for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
it's not like you're trying to take that away.
Yeah,
this is just a different way of looking at things.
But I always feel like we're kind of like a decade behind whatever the trending thing is, and it's just, I think conservatively, people are a little more rational with their money in the hunting industry, right? Because it's more of a hobby business,
right?
Not per se, it's not like a business, but I think a lot of guys will have those businesses in order to offset some cost for their hunts. It's like tax write-offs and finding avenues there. But I just challenge people to, like, let's up the quality. You go to the film festivals, it's like, I want to see some stuff where I'm like, get some goosebumps or see some people crying, and there's like, you like feel the crying versus just see the crying. So mixing in music, mixing in color grade, putting the right edits together, framing the shots to tell a story, and then allowing you guys, when you're on the couch, to connect the in-between dots. So if we're going to transition from a location, and I see you grab the car door handle, Dennis, and then you close it, and all of a sudden you're getting out in another location, we know you drove there. Right. So part of the story element is also leaving space to allow you to connect the dots in your head. You don't need to see every ridiculous detail. But in reality style hunting, usually you're just filming everything. You're just like, capture this, capture that. We don't know what we're going to put together. So storytelling style footage, I think a lot of stuff is premeditated. You're like, all right, I'm thinking about how this guy's going to put his boots on in the morning, and then he's transitioning by stepping into a puddle to then end up at his glassing knob. So you're already trying to tell little moments like that. And that just comes with experience to figure out how to piece those little story moments together.
One thing I see as a layman, and as a consumer of, what you guys are putting out, I see trends come and go. With you see different films where they're doing different things, and it's just kind of a trend type thing. But the one thing that is not a trend and never will be is storytelling.
Right.
Storytelling has been around since the dawn of time.
Yep.
Right.
You had the cavemen sitting around telling stories, and that's something that is timeless, and it will never get old. And the same story, really won't be told twice.
Right. I'm trying to figure out what Eve told Adam about that apple. You're like, the stories go way back, and we're still trying to figure some of that stuff out. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Exactly. Adam may have come out of that saying, I think I want my rib back.
Yeah.
But who knows? We're not pointing fingers here.
Right.
That's
right.
true.
But storytelling, I remember growing up and the hunting shows and the fishing shows, there were certain ones like on Saturday nights, and it was a regional deal. The guy he was a local guy, and basically I watched that to, number one, see how many fish he was catching and see what he's catching them on. Yeah. There was no story.
Okay.
It was, it was him and his boat, and
did he have a big orange Texas hat on by chance?
Sometimes, yeah. That was another guy that was very famous, but this guy I think was a wannabe, guy like that. But yeah, Bill Dance was he was part of my household.
Yep.
Then we had the guys that were kind of coming off of the pro tour and stuff that had been professional fishermen for a long time. Jimmy Houston, Roland Martin, those guys. That's what I grew up watching, and there was really no story behind it. I'm sure there is now, but I haven't watched those in years. Right. But there's a difference, and it's the same thing with dudes sitting up in a tree stand. I grew up in the Southeast, so we had a lot of that going on. There wasn't a whole lot of storytelling going on. It was like, you see that big old 8-point right there?
I love the accent.
He's
going to
come
change
out.
nothing.
Well, that's going back to my childhood.
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
Yeah. He's going to come out, and you watch. He's going to clear that tree right there, and I'm going to draw my bow, and then I'm going to knock him down. And then the emotions, after the shot and all that stuff. But that was it. There was
very reality, right?
It was very reality.
Yep.
So completely different from what you guys are doing. Right. And I'll tell you what, I really didn't get introduced to that type of film and storytelling until I kind of really got into the industry, if you will. And it's been fascinating. Not only are you getting to see this really cool hunt, like yours, for example, first archery mule deer hunt that you were able to step in front of the camera and get yourself documented by somebody else. There's a whole story behind that was just so cool, and it gets you right in the feels, as they say.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Gives you the goosebumps, and just like me, after seeing that, I want to be there. I want to do that, and I have before, but not in that way. So it just gets me amped up.
Yeah.
And I think the audience. I think the audience is the same way.
Oh, absolutely.
Chase has got a film that he's going to be putting together here pretty quick.
Yeah, right on. Yep.
From the spring bear hunt, and I can't wait to see. I just saw the little teaser, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I was there, and I didn't feel like that.
Right. And you have sitcoms, you have the reality stuff, you have sports entertainment. There's so many different formats of, depending on what you're trying to promote, what product are you trying to sell. Yeah. When you going back to what you were asking, like what makes a Revol film, I push super hard, authenticity, good story, showing the flaws. I think a lot of people try to cosmetically cover that up.
Right.
And not to bash everyone's egos. There are things that happen behind the scenes in some hunts where maybe there was a shot that didn't look ethical on camera. Doesn't reflect good light on hunting. Did the guy intentionally do that? Of course not. But there are some things we might need to cut it out. Yeah, it was two shots to shoot the deer. fortunately made a bad shot, we can only show the one good shot afterwards and play it out that way. Like, put that one in the closet and don't shed bad light on things, because that's not the intent.
Right.
But where you can show as much raw as possible while cinematically making it look beautiful, I think people just relate more. They're like, that guy, he missed and he's not afraid to say it.
Yep.
That guy tripped on a rock and laughed at himself. Now you can chuckle with him. And then that also attaches you to the character more, because he's letting you in to his personal space more.
Okay.
So that's a big piece in there.
Yeah.
And I just want people to know, like, the authenticity. Sometimes you have to add in some elements that maybe they weren't necessarily caught in that order. But if you're trying to tell a story, you have to put that puzzle together.
Right.
Because otherwise there's going to be the skipping point in your brain. You can close the door, show up location, get out of the truck. We know you drove there. But if the guy shoots and there was no something in between, you're like, oh, there's a dead deer. Well, what just happened? I didn't get to see the guy shooting. Yeah. So as long as you can find some clever ways to piece those together.
All that together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the gear and setups that go to create that type of film. I know this is a whole rabbit hole, but I want to talk about, too, because I don't think this is often realized by people, the amount of gear that you carry. It's insane. I know your back is hurting just from me bringing this up.
Yeah, well, my mobile office method might be a little outdated with the tech that we have now. Some guys would probably see what I carry around. They're all, dude, you could buy 2 iPhones and like one little DSLR and you don't have to carry all that stuff around with you because of stability and things. But when you feel confident, you've gotten good at that thing. I'm used to lugging it around. It's kind of just what I do. So typically I'll have a GoPro, ideally one of the latest and greatest GoPros, just because we have to kind of keep up with the paces of things.
Like what's a model and up you would go from?
What do we have? 14, 16, 20?
13.
Whatever the iPhone's
13.
at probably matches it.
It's like every year a new GoPro
13.
model comes out. Yeah. So let's say we skip every other year.
13.
The main reason I will bring a GoPro with me is, A, it's waterproof 100%. Yeah. It can have this really convenient jaw clamp on it, so I can clamp it onto a tripod and film somebody that's about to shoot in a pinch or something's happening fast. You got a camera just at the ready, and I'll usually that cross strap where you guys clip the backpack on,
the sternum strap.
I'll usually put the sternum, the jaw clamp of the GoPro sternum strap there, so I just pop it off super fast, or it's on like the little pull down lid for my vinyl harness. Okay. Or I'll arch it over because it's got the bendable neck to it. Yep. But I'll put that over there. It's somewhere quick to deploy. And a lot of times when I am packing that camera, I've got the new iPhone. So the beauty of the new iPhone, and mine's the 15, it's already outdated. There's 16 out. But you can shoot in what is called S-Log mode. S-Log is a flat picture profile. So imagine you got a beautiful cake, but there's no frosting on it yet. It'll shoot the scene in a flat picture profile, but what it allows you to do is to come back into post-production and add even better frosting on top of it. So then you can really bring in the contrast. You can change your highlights, your shadows. Big. So yeah, and when you're doing films, the vibrance of the color or the moodiness, if you want it to look like Batman, it's a feature, because if you don't use that S-Log setting, you're kind of burning in a color setting already that the camera provides, right? If you just click on video on your phone, it already kind of looks like the room as is. Now you can't really change that color. You can manipulate it a little bit, but if you shoot an S-Log, you can make this whole room like vintage looking with a sepia tone, change it to black and white. You can do all sorts of cool contrasty things, highlights, shadows. Just gives you way more range to add some tonality. And through the color grading, that's also where you can change the mood of the scenery and the mood of the storytelling. So it's kind of an important tool if you're trying to take your production to the next level. But so the iPhone, GoPro. I shoot on a Sony FX6. I put in on back order when they first came out, and was super hyped to get that because everybody wanted one. So I got a Sony FX6, got a big old shotgun mic on that thing, and then it's got the perk with the Sony FX6 is it's got built-in ND filters. ND filters, think of those as sunglasses for your eyes. So if it's too bright out, hit your built-in ND filter button, and now you can change how much sunglass you want over your lens to bring your settings to where you need them to be.
And that's super important video because you're kind of limited by like the 24 frames per second. You're going to double that for your shutter speed. So you can only shoot like a 1/48.
Yeah.
Where that would be really bright in a normal daylight setting. So if you throw the sunglasses on, you can bring that back and still have full control of your aperture, ISO. If you paid $3,000 for a lens, you can still use the lens to its full capability.
The other thing to pivot off of what Chase just said, so when we were talking about shutter speed earlier, ISO, shutter, aperture, when you were doing video, you can change your shutter a bit, but typically your shutter's set at your number. Let's say it's 1/50, which you're doubling your frame rate. So if you're shooting 24 frames a second, you would say it's 48. It's the closest increment that you can get on the camera. But when you're shooting that, you're not really changing that number too much, but you do need to change your ISO and your aperture. But if you throw a set of sunglasses or an ND filter on there, that allows you to move some things around in your settings without messing with your shutter speed as much.
Interesting.
So, same thing, like you can go deep dive on some other videos on it. But it's got built-in ND filter. Yeah. It's got dual audio channels, so I can plug in 2 different microphones. If I wanted you guys to be on our DJI mics, I love those wireless mics. Do you guys use them? DJI makes what do we use? DJI makes really great.
What do we use?
Mics.
We use the Rode video mic.
Rode does good. Rode's good too.
DJI sounded familiar.
Yeah. They're wonderful mics. DJI is the same company that makes like the drone that we use.
Yeah.
So I will have, I've got a Mavic drone, and then I have a Sony a7S III. The reason I take the Sony a7S III is it's a hybrid camera. So I can shoot video, and I can shoot photo, and I can shoot in a frame rate of 120, which is like your slow motion. You're about to shoot an arrow, and I'm over your shoulder, and you want that slow arrow in flight to get to the animal. You can do it on the FX6. The only caveat is the A7S III will allow you to record audio in 120 frames. The FX6, for some reason, it's a feature that will not allow it, and they probably fixed that in the latest upgrade. But there's always a couple of things they leave out to hook you to probably buy the second camera. Another important is I have what's called a Peak Design bracket. Comes with a lifetime warranty. Splurge on it. It is the absolute best thing for any hunter, solo, filming thing, anything. You put that thing on your backpack strap and you just lock a camera in so you have a quick deploy camera. I'm like, oh man, you're hiking up the steep spot. I want to get a couple beautiful photos, or I want to get a video shot. I have that there. The GoPro, I don't actually depend on that footage too much. It's more for rough weather conditions. If I get into rain, or if I'm like really trying to get down low and I don't have the opportunity to set up for those specific shots, but I need to tell that story, so I want to get that moment. It's just more there as a backup.
And there's no adjustability in the GoPro, right? I mean, that's
you can do
fisheye type thing.
No, you can actually change. You can change it.
Yeah.
You can do wide. You can do linear. You can basically change your field of view to multiple settings, and you can shoot in S-Log. That's why if you kind of just stay with the times on the better, latest and greatest, you just get all the perks of what they come with.
iPhone 13.
I'm surprised you have an iPhone 13, Dennis.
Yeah. And then you have the challenge of stories on Instagram, right? Or probably YouTube and everything shorts. You're shooting vertically. You're like, but I need to shoot that horizontally to put it in the long format video. So we have to double shoot a lot of stuff. And then you got to dump all that footage.
Okay.
So I've got a heavy duty tripod, fluid head tripod. This is where most of you guys would judge me on the mountain. You're like, why are you bringing that 50-pound tripod with you?
I think it's almost 50 pounds. That thing's insane.
But when I'm packing that and I have a 150 to 600 mil lens, depends on the hunt. But if we're doing rifle hunting, that 150 to 600 is super important, because if you have a long rifle shot, I want to bring the audience in close to the animal. So we got to get out there with the glass. If you're shooting 500-600 yards, I can't go like, hey, let me go get into 200 yards with my 70-200 and get a nice perspective. It's like, no, it's happening now.
Right.
So that big tripod gives me a locked, solid, stable video shot. I can take my hands off the camera so I don't have a reaction when you pull the trigger of a rifle. Naturally, there's going to be camera shake. And then you're like, that's like the most significant part of telling your story and the kill shot. It's just annoying, especially like we're real judgy of ourselves. Like, oh, I shook the camera, or that was out of focus. So to me, it's absolutely worth the headache of lugging a big tripod if I'm bringing that big lens with me, because I do not. That's an important piece of the story.
And that's usually the second tripod you've got with you.
Yeah, and then I'll have probably 2 more tripods. No.
Yeah.
I have the other tripod I'll bring. A lot of times there's lulls in the day. You can only film guys glassing for so long.
Right.
And then I joke around. I call it knifing off some veg. I'll go shoot B-roll of plants, spider webs, maybe set up a time lapse. But while everyone's glassing and you feel like you got all the shots of that, then I like an extra tripod because I want to be able to help glass. Yeah. I'm a hunter at the end of the day as well. Why not help people find what we're trying to track down to increase the opportunity to finish the rest of what we're filming?
Yeah. You're digiscoping with that one.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so
and then
you and I both, I think, Chris, we use the all-in adapter. Is that what you have?
That's what Dennis has been using recently. I've been using on glass, actually.
Are you happy with that one?
Yeah, I do.
I am
like it a lot.
in love with the all-in one. You just literally hard case on the phone, pop that thing on your spotter with the adapter that you ordered to fit the spotter you want.
Yep.
And it is like on there, you're recording, because I've had lots of opportunities where we've missed just seconds of, what was it, King Arthur?
Yeah.
The bull you guys will at some point be crying over like we are.
And I'll probably be in tears,
But just catching a moment of that
right.
can make or break, like, are we going to hike 2 miles to go after that thing?
For sure.
So that important adapter is a great question to have that in your arsenal of film equipment.
And then go ahead.
I was just going to say, Chase, how does your kit relate to what Clint carries?
Yeah, no, it's a great point.
A lot of similarities?
No, actually hardly any. But it's different because, Clint, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the time you're not hunting at the same time, right?
Correct.
So the difference between me and him is most of the time I got to go in lightweight with you guys. Not saying you're not, but I might carry a rifle. I'm going to have all the same gear as if I'm hunting, ammo. Okay. I can't afford to bring a 20-pound tripod. I'm also not packing in that giant lens. So I'm taking a spotter with a phone scope attachment. And what I'm shooting, I need more content than just the story. So for the brand, we need photos. We might be taking photos and social.
Different side of things.
Yeah, your objective is completely different than what Clint's thinking about.
Because you're still
I got to have gear that can do
Okay.
kind of like 10 different things based on what the objective is. Yeah. If we're going out there to fill bear tags, we're hunting a public land, we might not even see a bear. Yeah. So if I go out there with just one mentality of filming a bear hunt, we don't see a bear, that whole thing was kind of a flop and not productive for the brand. Yeah, so I need to get product shots. I need to do stuff for social. Right. So my priorities are kind of shifted, which is different. I'm just a different realm of videographer in the industry.
Sure.
I'm a little bit closer to the brand, whereas Clint is inspiring people and doing this incredible production.
Right.
I like to call it, this is not true for other people, but I do the dirty content.
Okay.
Yeah. The raw and the real.
The raw and the real. I'm getting photos for the brand stuff for marketing assets. You're inspiring people, telling this incredible story, going on these great journeys.
Yeah.
Res.
You're taking on a personal adventure with you while being like, hey, this is the product that's making my life easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's where that 2-camera guy thing is clutch, when you can justify it, when it's within a reasonable budget to do the extra person. It's like the quality goes up. So we try to push really hard not to do solo camera shooters unless I'm being hired to still go film a hunt.
Yeah.
And some of those are still bread and butter, so I'll go do it. But if we can take 2 guys, it's like a game changer with what you can create for content.
What's that giant camera you carry around?
That was the Sony FX6.
So that's the Sony.
With a 150 to 600 millimeter lens. Throw an ND filter on the end of that if it's on the A7S III, but I have it built in for the FX6.
And that's the one that you're throwing around your shoulder half the time because it's like
it's on the
20
big
pounds.
Yeah, it's on the big tripod.
Yeah.
And a lot of times if you're going, let's say we're making a stock, we're going to go up, and I know that by the time we get to the cusp of this hill, that's probably where you guys are going to lay down prone and make your rifle shot. Just in me taking the knowledge I have as a hunter, I'm anticipating that's where I would shoot from. I'm already deploying tripod legs as I'm walking behind you at a certain height that I think is going to clear the weeds on the ground. It's going to be probably around your shoulder height. I love when you can get somebody in the foreground just blurry enough in the frame to know that you're there with them in the moment. And the old school days, they had the zoom cameras, so they're like, the guy shoots and zoom out real quick and try to get on the person, be like, he's right here, he just shot that really happened.
Yeah.
So I always love just a little hint of somebody in the frame,
Touch,
even if they
okay.
just dip
Yeah.
in and dip out, and you're like, oh, that person is really like right there right now.
Right.
And then you can always zoom out and stay on the animal. So there's that tripod comes in handy for that. Drop it, boom, on the animal, anchored down. It's got a heavy duty handle on the bottom where I can quickly level it.
Yeah.
I'm on the animal, hit record. Oh, now I can grab another camera and get you behind the trigger. If I can get that authentically, and I don't have to be like, hey, can I turn it into slow-mo and have you redo the shot? There's just little emotional elements that if you can get them when they happen, you're gonna feel it when you watch it.
Okay.
You can tell when a guy's like, is he ready? Okay. Get on my trigger. Oh, yeah. Oh, 400 yards. Yeah. We have to do it sometimes.
Right.
It's just like it's a missing part. We didn't get a chance to get it all unraveled too fast. But anytime I can capture that in real time, I try so hard to get that.
So what's more important? Just a question for you.
Yeah,
if you had to choose one or the other, would you rather have the kill shot or the reaction?
I would rather have
Great question.
I would rather have the kill shot based off of just the audience.
Yeah.
Because more people are probably going to gravitate to watching because the fact that the kill shot's kind of like, it's what gets us fired up to go hunting.
Yeah.
The reaction is amazing, and sometimes I'm bummed I didn't get it right away. But I think that kill shot has more sellable value, especially for a product.
That makes sense.
If you're an optic company or rifle company, ammo company, pack company, the goal to sell your product is to show that you can have success in the field with that item.
Yeah.
And I think that kill shot just naturally outweighs it. And then you come back and be like, hey, I need you to shoot a second time. I didn't get it right then and there.
Yeah.
And just do it.
And the reason I ask, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead. No,
taking
this is perfect. That's
the
why we
reason
wanted John.
I ask that is because it kind of depends on, and this is for the audience really, what are you trying to accomplish videoing?
Right.
Are you a guy
Film-wise.
just filming hunts because you want to share the memories of time spent in the mountains? Or are you filming for brands? Like, these are things you really have to pre-pro before you go out, because it'll set your priority on how you have your cameras attached to your pack. If you're walking up with a tripod in your hand at all times, like, you really need to know what shots you can't go without and what shots you can kind of get by with.
That's a great point. Well, and I want to, that's such a good question. I want to ask it to you, Dennis, as a viewer. So I agree with you completely, Clint, that the majority of people want the kill shot. That's just, I mean, we know that's the reality. That's what people are always skipping towards. Like, that's just how it is. But as a viewer, you personally, Dennis, you get to pick one when you're watching a film. Kill shot, reaction. Which one?
For me, if we are in a storytelling type film, I want to see the reaction, because that has everything to do with that story. As a hunter, I want to see the kill shot.
Okay.
But as a consumer of the product that you're trying to sell, this story, whatever it may be, I want to see that reaction, because for me that ties it all together.
And you kind of feel that in the moment later. Like, I see somebody get excited on it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there. Like,
and it comes with the framing.
Yeah.
If you get the right lens
absolutely.
to frame it both, or you're quickly zooming out and zooming in.
Yeah.
People are going to care less about the zoom out and zoom in if they get to see a reaction and you just shot it and you're there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. What
And
was your other question, Chase?
I was kind of just branching off that. That's kind of why that GoPro, I love that you use it too, because I use a GoPro for time lapses, more like quick content that I don't want to spend a bunch of time or spend batteries in the mountains. Like,
and it's just compact, right?
It's compact, it's tiny. So being able to just throw that GoPro on and get the reaction with something with maybe a little less resolution, but I still get that initial like, whoa, this is what we did. That's what's going to give the audience butterflies.
I would have missed all my emotion if I didn't sneak that GoPro in my pocket on our deer hunt.
Okay.
I would have missed that whole part.
Yeah, because there's a video.
I would have been stuck down there by myself 600 yards away from a camera.
Yeah.
I was like,
that reaction is so raw in that film too. I love it. I love that.
Just straight.
It brings me right back to it.
And only as a camera guy would I have instinctually been like, oh, film myself and say what I need to say. Yeah. I'm actually surprised that I wasn't so caught up in the moment that I forgot it was in my pocket.
You're a camera
But
guy at heart. I knew
camera
that.
guy. I know.
Shocked at all.
We're making a film.
You went right back to camera mode.
Uh-huh.
I got one more
Go
question
ahead.
for you.
Hit him.
Yep.
What do you think, like, bringing a camera into the woods and taking it with you hunting, what has that given you?
I think you got a lifetime of memories, assuming you do a good job archiving your footage. We always back up our footage a minimum of 2 times because I've heard many guys like hard drive failed or got deleted, or I sent it to somebody and he won't ever get back to me because we had a falling out. Just double your footage anytime you document it if it's important to you to capture it. But I think about a lot of this stuff tends to skip a generation. Grandpa shot that big buck. He inspired me to go buck hunting. When Dad did it, I don't feel like you want to follow it as much, but it's like that skipping of a generation. So I do it more for myself, and like if I'm blessed with grandkids and they just happen to play around and pull into some of this old footage, trying to figure out what some of these hard drives are, because who knows what technology will be by then. Right. But just maybe they watch just one thing I say on camera and it completely alters an adventure they do in their life, and then it changes everything.
That's cool.
So for me, documenting footage it's its own archival legacy, right? I think that's really fun, and that's why I really enjoy filming other people's hunts and precious moments and telling those stories. Is like 10 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, that was so cool, instead of just trying to like, what happened that day? Mm-hmm. I'll get a lot of people get upset. They're like, I don't want you to show this. I'm like, you'll thank me later, I promise. Yeah. Just let me do it.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want people laughing at you now because you tripped over a stump or whatever it was.
That's the best part.
You'll be laughing at yourself even more when you look back at that.
Right.
But you'll juggle some ego stuff in there.
Yeah.
And one other thing just to talk about when we were like, what's more important, the kill shot or the reaction? Sometimes you're in a position where the animal presents itself. You don't have the time to get the kill shot, or maybe you have a short lens on because you were filming something else and all of a sudden there's an animal there. Now you're forced to get the reaction shot. So I did it with a bear in September. I killed my first bear in Washington. Cool. All I had was my like 16 to 35 because I was just getting some cool nature shots, some product shots. And I was hunting, but I wasn't planning to be filming myself shooting an animal. I was like, it's a bonus if this happened to fall in my lap. Sure enough, there's a bear in a blueberry patch. So I just quickly scrambled to get my camera on the tripod because I know that angle's no way you're going to see it'll look like a piece of pepper down there if I try to film it with that lens. I was like, well, I'll film myself and then get the reaction and just talk about what I did. Okay. It was like perfect.
Yeah.
I just got to shoot that. I rested the gun on your pack, smoked a bear, and then got to talk a little bit about my emotions. So just that unraveled organically.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
I love to document it. I love what I do. And I have to pinch myself sometimes cashing in an architecture career and all the events in Hollywood and then picking up a camera and never anticipating that it would put me here podcasting with you guys today. And even talking about the dude behind a camera. Like, I'm all about you guys.
You can feel it in the way you talk about it, too, that you do love it. And something that's super cool as somebody that has been on a hunt that you filmed, like you filmed that elk hunt of mine, like I can see that as the hunter, too, which is super cool. But that's another avenue I want to talk about a little bit because that is not easy. Like, you have a passion for it, but it's physically hard.
Physically hard.
It really is. Like, your side of it, like carrying all the gear you carry and stuff, that's not easy. So I do kind of want to talk about some of those struggles before we close.
Okay.
I don't think there's a whole lot of camera guys. Like, when we went after, you talked about King Arthur.
Oh my gosh!
We went after that bull.
Are you going to put King Arthur, just a little tease of him in this podcast, just a little snippet, just a little through the tree snippet, or is that giving away?
Him up. We probably need to. But folks that are listening will have to go to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yes.
When the film drops, when your elk hunt drops.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be Vortex Nation too, right?
It will. There'll be a film out on that, and it's that bull's giant. That gets anybody excited seeing a bull of that caliber. But as a camera guy, we went after him, not found him, right? We wake up the next morning going to where he was, and it was like mid-October, 3 inches of snow probably.
It was frozen.
Literally single digits. And my boots, I don't know about your boots, my boots were literally frozen.
Yeah.
Like
my laces were stiff.
I couldn't get them on almost. Yes.
Yeah.
And we hiked for 3 hours. I think it was 1.5 miles plus.
Yeah, we got up like 3:30 or
Yep.
4-ish.
Yep. I think we left camp before 4 o'clock in some country that shouldn't be walked in the dark. It's treacherous. It's not safe to do, but we didn't want to use a headlamp either to be seen by this giant.
Sorry, ladies.
Yeah.
Honey.
So I don't know how many camera guys would have followed me in that scenario to go after that bull. That's not easy.
I think
that's hard to be motivated as a hunter. I had a tag. You're the camera guy, and you got up to go after that bull with me.
It's probably partial insanity.
Yeah,
and then I get so much fulfillment just filming a hunt as much as getting to hunt. Is it like I'm stoked when somebody gets an animal, and to me the kill shot on a camera's it's like hunting myself.
Okay.
So if I can get a good framed up kill shot, I treat that like the challenge of getting a good, accurate, ethical kill shot with a weapon.
Right. That is cool.
Heart rate doesn't get quite as intense. Now, I know this now.
Yeah.
Doesn't get quite as intense, but at the same time, I think that's the motivation to get me up. And I look at photography and videography as the next shot you aim to capture could be your next best shot. There's always that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You don't know when there's going to be that phenomenal shot that you didn't anticipate coming in.
Right.
And one of my favorite clips that I was able to get in some of my filming career was when this big bull, you'll see it in the film, this big bull just comes down with his nose down, like tilts his head up. He's all in the rut, and there's this perfect cow and calf in the foreground. It's just like the mom, dad, and the baby all right there. It was just the way he came in and capturing that. I was like, I get worked up every time I get to see that. Okay. And I got to film that bull for like 20 minutes at 20 yards, awesome. Glunking. He was urinating all over everything, just
being a
steam
bull
and
in the
slob, but he's so close. It was just like,
that's awesome.
And I was literally set up in his bed where he was headed to.
That's so cool.
You just shared, every once in a while, it'll show up. You get those opportunities.
Okay. You just shared your favorite moment maybe ever. Share your biggest struggle filming.
Great question. Biggest struggle. Like a mistake I made or biggest
anything.
Struggle?
You tell me how you want to go about it. It can be a mistake you made. It could have just been a difficult scenario that you had to film through.
Honestly,
the peek behind the cameraman here.
Honestly, probably the biggest struggle for me is weather conditions. When you get into some really brutal weather conditions.
Yeah. I
went to Ketchikan, Alaska to film the mountain goat hunt, and we hiked up in absolute torrential rain. Getting up there, I hiked a heavy 50 millimeter lens. I got up there and the lens just fogged in because the heat of my body, where it was in my pack, fogged in. And this lens is my baby. It's a Sigma 50 millimeter 1.4 prime or whatever it is.
Say it again.
We'll give you a minute.
It's an art lens, and it just makes stuff look beautiful. My buddy Aaron Morgan's the one that turned me on to it. And when it fogged up, I was like so stoked on how hard I had to work to get up to this mountain. Yeah. About to pull the lens out to click it in. I'm all, you've got to be kidding me. This is some of the most epic country, and this dang lens is fogged in, and I could not get it out. So I used a 1-400, which is a little bit longer lens, and a GoPro to tell that entire story. And I could not get the fog for the life of me out of that
Did it ever
lens. I think I put it in a tub of rice to help get the moisture out, if I recall correctly, or it just naturally did it. I can't remember. It did eventually go away.
Do you have that happen often?
No, it's like when the weather conditions just happen to throw you a curveball. Even the cold weather usually threaten your batteries more than the glass, I've noticed.
Makes sense.
Where batteries get burnt out a little bit faster. But certain weather elements, when it fights against your tech, I'm not smart enough. If you guys have any comments to throw in there that'll give us better tips on how to prevent that, I'd be all about it, because it's very rare, but it does happen. Okay. And we had one other guy had a fog scenario on a recovery morning that we were trying to shoot, and he's like, I can't do anything, my lens is all fogged in. So that probably would be the most frustrating, challenging thing, is like, that lens is staying in the backpack, now I've got a GoPro and I've got this, and I don't really have a ton of GoPro batteries because this is usually my backup camera. Right. So you're always learning something new there.
Yeah. But you adjusted. You made do.
Adjusted, made do. We got third in the Badlands Film Festival with that one.
Oh, look at that. That's the
So-
perfect example.
What's that? Yeah,
I love
threw it
it.
in there. I'm like, what could it have been if I had that 50 millimeter?
First.
Was that archery mountain goat film?
Yeah, my buddy Shane Vandergiesen had a beautiful mountain goat tag and
Awesome.
catch a cannon. Made a great shot. Like everything, just
Yeah.
like how you take.
love it.
How you know how hard it is where that goat died and went down into trying to have a 1 to 400 to try to take a trophy kill shot,
Oh.
like the grip and grin. Like, dude, I'm so sorry. I just the photos of you in this scenario. I'm trying to use his cannon with his lens. We got
Right.
water behind us. Just some unpredictable scenarios. You adapt, and we worked around it. But
Yeah.
that would probably be one.
It was an incredible
I
film,
love it.
regardless.
Thank you.
Funniest
And-
now. You crack me up, dude. You're one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. Like literally the entire elk hunt we had together, I was laughing. So give me one of your funniest stories while filming a hunt.
Funniest stories while filming a hunt. Oh, man, you're calling out a hard one because I've had some funny moments.
You have.
But it's usually like the last one you're on. You're always having just good times with guys. I would say on our hunt with you, I don't know if we got this on camera, but Austin coming across that rock face in the dark, we took him into a very sketchy situation.
I forgot.
And he's already got a bad knee. I think his ankle's probably half shot at this point.
This
And they're
was
like,
so
hey, you lead the way. I lost my Garmin. Like the screw popped off. It's up there
His
still.
inReach,
If you ever
still
find
gone.
it, let me know.
Yeah.
And so I'm just taking the route of least resistance at this point, and I go across this rock face, and I just remember headlamping down. I'm like, ooh, we're going to keep the headlamp straight ahead. It's like sheer drop down there.
Oh, yeah,
and I can
cliff
hear
dive.
Austin politely cursing in the background all the way across this rock face, because I'm pretty sure I had my phone camera on or something, just grabbing some dialogue, because I was like, he's going to hate me following me coming this direction. And then you guys hop down, and they go to offer him a hand. He's like, get your hands off me. I'm going to let myself off this part of the mountain or whatever. But his commentary, he's just super witty.
Oh, the entire time.
And Austin just had me cracking up. That was a very funny moment. And probably when you found that dead head and me gagging, I'm sure you guys got a good kick out of that.
Okay, that might be one
That
of
was
my
pretty
all-time
gross.
favorites. Yeah, we found a super cool, old, unique deadhead out there. And he'd probably only been dead maybe a month. This bull probably died of old age, like rutting. Like he's one of the heaviest bulls I've ever put my hands on. And he was pretty rank. And here's
Pretty rank? Like, I've got a pretty decent...
No, you don't.
I thought I had a pretty decent scent tolerance, but that thing...
Well, I
could
smelled
not
him
not
before
gag.
we saw him
Yeah.
by a long ways. That's what led us to him. I could smell him.
You take the poopiest of poopy diapers, mix that with some like enchilada hot sauce, whatever the kids like, wrong pea soup.
It was bad.
That thing stunk so
and as I
bad.
am cutting the head off of this thing, Clint is literally in the back.
Because I want to try to, I want to try to
Probably
film
30
some of
minutes.
it.
The entire time, and he would come over with his camera to get a shot, and then he'd start walking off. He couldn't do
It
it.
was gross. I don't. And is that part of your law enforcement background? You just had
Yeah,
to deal
man.
with some unfortunate,
Well, animals
stinky
aren't as
thing.
bad as people. People are way
Man, I
grosser.
tell you, that was a rough one.
that one was pretty rough.
So you talk about struggle. You asked a great question about what you struggle with. Do you try to find struggle in every story that you tell? Is that a key element?
I think the struggle will present itself.
Okay.
Same with the hunt.
Is that important that it does?
I think it's a very important key to a story. You got to have your highs and your lows. You got to have your climax in the storytell, and you got to have the drop down.
You got to have the roller coaster.
You can fish hard for it and try to be like dig in with questions, and eventually you say something like, "We're going with that. That's going to help us navigate through telling this thing." But that and hunting, people go in like, "Okay, we're going to shoot this bull in 3 days." Did that happen for us? It's like we thought it could. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful unit. Opportunities are high. But hunts are hunts. You cannot
100%.
control anything. So a lot of times you're 2/3 to 3/4 of the project through before it even really has a full story to tell. Because you don't know if the guy's going to, am I going to shoot, miss, get a redemption shot? I'm going to shoot, miss, and walk away with my head down, disappointed the whole time. What's my takeaway? Did I still find triumph and success in just getting and putting myself out there? So you mold a lot of that stuff based off of the circumstances of what the hunt does, and I think that's where the emotion and the climax of the hunt can really change things around.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think on that? What's your opinion on the struggle?
Yes and no. Yeah. I'm with you though. Like, filming hunts is so unpredictable. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you get a character with an obvious struggle, it's pretty easy to paint a picture and pre-pro for it. But I think most of it will come out post-production or close to the end.
You can, we'll do some post-interview stuff for some of our videos, and you can kind of recap on what the struggle was there. You might not hear it emotionally in the voice, but you can definitely help pull that dialogue in to recap it.
Sense.
There's one other thing I was going to mention to you guys, and I might have lost it.
It probably would have gone over Dennis and I's head anyways. So.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people, and that's kind of what I've noticed is hard about filming hunts, especially with people you don't know. Kind of like what you do. You know, you're meeting new people and going on these journeys with them. You don't really know the person, what they're going through. And they're going to put on a front for you up until they have success or failure, and then they're going to have a breaking point. And then you find out maybe their father's in the hospital, someone's dealing with cancer. You're going to hit somebody at their low, and then, I mean, you kind of want to film it, even though you want to be there in support of them. So, yeah.
Right.
You have maybe somebody gets injured, right?
Yeah.
We were just talking about Joe hurt his calf muscle. That could have easily pivoted into a story element there on now there's this camaraderie of getting a guy off the mountain.
Right.
That becomes way more of a priority than, we're going to kill something. And it just shows you the level of friendship. So now you can start catering to that and arm over the shoulder and show some
Band of Brothers
heroic pieces there.
Yeah. Okay. One last thing I want before we get to rapid fire, because we always
6
close with rapid fire. We always close with rapid fire.
Biceps in diameter, by the way.
What's your one piece of advice for a younger videographer coming up trying to make films?
Call me.
Hey.
We're always looking for somebody that's hungry to learn.
Yeah.
I want
job opportunity.
If I
it.
can do anything to pass along what I've learned, and I've done a lot of it learning the hard way, I would love to have the opportunity to teach somebody, but they have to be hungry for it. Yeah. They have to be willing to put in the time. I did all of that, and I'm happy to share all that information. If you don't have the time or whatever to obviously sync up with me on a project, is just get out and start doing it and consume YouTube. If there's a setting you don't know about, Google what is ISO, figure out your ISO. Yeah. What is aperture?
Great.
And then go apply that in the field. How do you do a star time lapse? I didn't know how to do one. Google it, YouTube it, try it 10 times till I'm like, okay, now I know how that works. Then go learn something again.
I love it.
So I think the biggest thing is just jump both feet in and do it. And if you do it with the passion and hunger for it, the information is going to come to you. Ask questions. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Awesome.
Dennis, you're up.
Okay, rapid fire. Okay,
and don't double tap the red button, by the way.
Exactly. So the way we do this, you've done it before, being a repeat offender, but we ask 6 to 7 questions, and it's going to be one word or the other. You choose one, quick, no explanation, just right off the cuff, okay? And these could come from anywhere.
I'm expecting that from you.
Burrito or taco?
Burrito.
Football or baseball?
Baseball.
Bow or rifle?
Bow.
Jeans or joggers?
Jeans.
That would slow him down more.
Country or hip hop?
Country.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Boom.
Okay.
I love it. Well, Clint
Good
Easley,
ones.
thank
Good
you
ones.
for coming back on the Mountain Dude podcast. Quick plug on where people can find you.
RevolEntertainment.com. Lover backwards, in
Yeah.
case you guys want to know how to spell the word Revol. At Revol Entertainment for Instagram, and I'm pretty sure that'll lead you into Facebook and all of our other platforms. But if you go to revolentertainment.com, we've got links to everywhere to track us down.
Perfect.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Thank
for
you
coming on
guys.
again, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Round
It's always a pleasure,
2.
Clint.
Okay.
Until next time, keep your eyes on the summit. This is the Mountain Dude Podcast, signing off.